today's video, I asked you on X who you think is the most underrated WWE superstar active in 2024. And I purposely didn't give you a definition of what underrated is because I wanted to see what kind of answers you came up with based on your definition of what you think underrated means. So I'm going to go through a bunch of the submissions. I'm going to tell you my thoughts. I'm going to tell you whether I agree or disagree with you as to whether they're underrated or not. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I am confident that you're going to fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. As I'm realizing, I'm doing like those hand gestures of the NPC streamers. Thank you for the ice cream. Thank you for the pepper. Oh, thank you for the galaxy. I'm sorry for that. And hey, if you want even more daily wrestling content, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. There's about like 14 extra videos every single week that never get uploaded to YouTube that I think that you're really going to like. Go check it out. Patreon.com/SantiZap. There's some free ones over there as well. Go check it out. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's jump into the video. The infamous Tonga Loa. He should be world champion. So this is how we're starting the video. Look, I figured I would just get this one out of the way since so many people sent in Tonga Loa. I get it. It's the funny meme thing to do to acknowledge your tribal Tonga Loa. But look, let's face it, he's lost a lot of that aura ever since he lost that eye patch. He just isn't the same dude anymore. I don't know that I would say that Tonga Loa is underrated, like genuinely in any capacity. If anything, I would just say that he's properly rated, but he does have a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a screw up in major situations. And I feel like that reputation has kind of just permeated to his entire existence in the WWE. So people just sort of think that he screws up all the time when it's just been a couple of key moments. Granted, very, very memorable key moments. And now because he has this stigma that he's Botchaloa, everyone just thinks that he's bad at everything that he does. So I actually think that he does sort of fit the mold for what underrated is because he's obviously not that bad if he's able to get screen time in the WWE like every single episode of Friday Night SmackDown, and they even gave him a championship run with the tag titles. So weirdly enough, because of how much stigma is behind the infamous Botchaloa, I think he is underrated. This man right here, Boss Man, referring to Solo Sikoa. Geez, I mean, it really depends on like what you want to define underrated as, because it feels like we're now at the coming out party of Solo Sikoa. Now we know what this dude has been hiding all along. It's now coming out to the surface that he can be an incredibly entertaining heel and a guy that can be a flag bearer for heels on Friday Night SmackDown. So I wouldn't say that he's underrated anymore because now we know what he's all about. Clearly he was underrated before because he wasn't getting the opportunities to be this character that he's all of a sudden become, and now he's flourishing as. If anything, I feel like the tale of Solo Sikoa's rise just sort of makes you wonder who else in the WWE is somebody like Solo that just isn't being given the spotlight and an opportunity to flourish, shine, and grow, that if given that stage and that spotlight could flourish like Solo Sikoa has. So I wouldn't say that Solo is underrated anymore. If anything, I would say that he's maybe overhated and maybe a little bit overjudged by people, but I wouldn't say he's underrated anymore. It's clear that he was clearly a very well-kept secret by the WWE. I recently jumped on the Karrion Kross train and want Santi to be a part of it. It's Karrion's brilliant character work in the latter part of this year that needs recognition. So in December, I'm going to be doing my breakout superstars of the year, most improved superstars of the year. And I, interestingly enough, do believe that in the last couple of months alone, Karrion Kross and his character development has made so many strides forward that he's going to be in consideration for most improved and even breakout superstar of the year. I've been very vocal and very critical against Karrion Kross's work over the last year and a bit since returning back to the WWE in 2022, but I have to admit, I've been intrigued and I've been interested and I've been, more than anything, entertained by what Karrion Kross has been doing. And I think it's going to take a while for people like me, people that just have stigmatized Karrion Kross as somebody somebody that just is involved in boring storylines that don't develop into anything particularly spectacular, it's going to take a while for people like me to come around. But I'm starting to come around on this Karrion Kross bandwagon. But there's a lot of healing to do because there was a lot of damage done to the stock of Karrion Kross. So yeah, I think right now with me seeing the light of Karrion Kross, I would say that he is underrated at the moment. Piper Niven. Piper Niven is just underrated because we know she can do so much more, at the very least from a physical point of view, and they don't really let her get to that next level, that next gear in the ring. That being said, we're seeing a really entertaining side of Piper Niven from a character standpoint. But I feel like there's still a lot of people that just don't see like main event potential in Piper Niven. I'm not one of those. I really was intrigued when she got that main event push going into Clash at the Castle, and I would love to see it again. I also agree, Piper Niven is underrated. Zelina Vega is great on the mic and great in the ring. She should be pushed much higher. I agree that she should be pushed much higher, but I don't think that it's a secret. I think that everyone knows that Zelina Vega can torch in the ring, but she can cook pretty much every single other female on the roster on the microphone. I think that she's the best on the microphone in the women's division of the entirety of the WWE. I feel like the only one that could really go toe-to-toe with Zelina Vega is Alexa Bliss, but I feel like those two are on a league of their own when it comes to mic work. So I wouldn't say that she is underrated. If anything, I think we could all agree that she's at the very least underutilized, because we know how absolutely damn good she can be if she's just given the opportunity to be that. And unfortunately, in recent memory, as she's teamed up with the LWO, we haven't really gotten to see that character side of Zelina Vega, that version of Zelina Vega that can just spit straight heat on the microphone. At one point, he was the most overrated, but now I think he's underrated, referring to Austin Theory. Isn't it funny how the dial just sort of goes from one way to the other, just kind of depending on how you're being utilized? Because when you're overexposed, people just don't want to see you in that moment anymore. And that's what was happening with Theory in 2022 when he was Mr. Money in the Bank. But now we've seen Theory get better and better and better, but now instead of pushing him and putting him in the forefront, WWE keeps holding him back from us, which is almost like we're that little kid who was not playing with a toy anymore, and a different kid came along and took that toy. Now we want that toy back. But just in the last couple of years, I think that there's been a lot of growth with Austin Theory as both a performer in the ring and on the microphone, and with his character work, backstage segments, and we want to see more of it now, but they're kind of restricting him from us. I don't know that I would say that he's underrated. Again, the definition of what's underrated can be so subjective, but I kind of put him in the same boat as Zelina Vega now, because I think a lot of us know what's there and that he's really, really good. It's just that he's being underutilized. That's what happens when you use real glass. Oh my God! What? Yo, with a tombstone? Oh my God.
No, that's even worse.
That, folks, was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively over on patreon.com/Santizap. This week, we're going to be looking at the wild supermarket brawl between Booker T and Stone Cold Steve Austin. We have a match for the TNA World title between AJ Styles and Bully Ray. We're looking at the carnage that was King of the Ring 2001 between Shane McMahon and Kurt Angle. We're once again going to Japan, watching Io Sky take on Utami in Marigold in 2024. And we're wrapping up the week with the instant classic that was Walter versus Ilya Dragunov for the NXT UK title. You're going to be getting these watch-alongs alongside the Undertaker Streak watch-along, the Royal Rumble watch-along, the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, and the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else. We've also just launched a Patreon exclusive Discord page where this week we're going to be watching Ready to Rumble together as a community. So if you want to get access to all of this, which is all content that can never appear on YouTube, go over to patreon.com/Santizap. Head on over there, give it 1 month. I'm confident that you're going to fall in love with it, because not only do you get so much more content that never appears on YouTube, but it's a really tight community over there as well of wrestling fans. I'll put the link in the description for you, as well as the link in the pinned comment. Just come on by. That's it, folks. If you're a patron, thank you for your support. Let's get back to the video. People are too caught up in that dud of a match against Jay at Mania. Part of the best tag team of all time, incredible storyteller, underrated promo, great at injecting comedy into segments, and he can hang in the ring with anyone too, referring to Jimmy Uso. I think it's fair. I think it's fair when you say that a lot of people are holding that baggage of that terrible brother versus brother match between him and Jay at WrestleMania 40, and they're holding it up against Jimmy Uso. But isn't it interesting that they're not using the same argument against Jay? Because you make a great point that he's part of the best tag team of all time, yes, but I feel like the problem with Jimmy and how people are perceiving him is that they're comparing him directly against his brother Jay, who is having, let's face it, a much better singles career than Jimmy has so far. And although I agree with some of the things that you're saying, you know, when you say that he can hang in the ring with anyone too, can he? I mean, sure, he can go from point A to point B in a match, but they're not particularly like super entertaining matches unless he's with Jay. So I've not been particularly impressed with Jimmy Uso as a single superstar. It just hasn't worked for me. And I don't think that I'm alone in saying that. Like, there's a lot of people that probably fall in that camp as well, just being overall underwhelmed with Jimmy Uso as a single star. But yeah, does he inject great comedy into segments? Absolutely. He can be a great storyteller, but all of the best things that Jimmy is capable of doing seem to only come alongside his brother Jay. Meanwhile, Jay has formed an identity all on his own, and I don't think that Jay needs Jimmy, but Jimmy needs Jay. So I disagree. I don't think he's underrated. I think The Miz is overlooked for his ability to be put in any place on the card and be absolutely perfect there. That is so true, because so many people will say that The Miz is overrated, especially if you were to get a push into the main event scene. But when you look at it from a different lens like you are here, like you can literally put The Miz in any job in the WWE and he would excel at it. That to me is a super incredibly rare and valuable trait. You could put him in commentary. You can make him a manager. You can put him in the tag team division like they did. You can make him into a jobber. You can make him into a main eventer, and all of it works at some point or another with The Miz, because he's one of those people that kind of just floats to the top, because the crop really does separate itself when it's good, and The Miz is good. And a lot of people just don't want to admit that because they're just so laser focused on saying that The Miz is overrated as a main eventer. But as the entire package, I agree with you. I think The Miz is underrated for what he offers to the world of professional wrestling. El Campeón has improved so much in the last year and has had one of the most impressive title runs in the last decade. Sure, I would agree that his improvement has definitely been there, but I don't think that anyone would qualify Damian Priest as underrated necessarily. I bet you there's probably more people in the camp that he's overrated than underrated. I don't really fall in either of them. I just sort of think that Damian Priest is perceived kind of correctly as he should be. But it is kind of a similar tale to Solo Sikoa when you think about it, like this dormant budding megastar that just really wasn't given the opportunity to be that. And then the second that he's given the ball to run with it, all of a sudden he explodes. So he was clearly underrated and underused and underappreciated before all of this newfound main event hype that he's found in the last couple of months. It's clear that people like Damian Priest and Solo Sikoa were always capable of so much more, and it was just a matter of time for WWE to give them the opportunity to demonstrate that. At this point, they aren't even underrated when they put on banger matches every time they perform. Their matches don't miss. Yeah, I wouldn't say that Axium and Nathan Frazer are underrated, because I think anyone and everyone that watches NXT just knows that these guys are by de facto unbelievably goddamn incredible at their job. I think if anything, they're just not known enough because they're just relegated to NXT. And I cannot wait for the entire world of the WWE universe, those majority of fans that only watch Raw, SmackDowns, and main roster PLEs, to feast their eyes on how unbelievably good Axium is. It's just a matter of time until the cat is fully out of the bag with the wider WWE universe. I know he's not a superstar, but Joe Tessitore has helped elevate some of the most emotional moments of 2024, if not the past decade. Example, Jey Uso's IC title victory. I feel like he's going to bring so much value to moments that may need a momentum boost going forward. Yeah, I'm still kind of torn on Joe Tessitore. Like, there are moments where I love him as a commentator and then moments where I wish he was more. Because when he hits those peaks, when he hits those mountains, when he has to be there in the moment to help elevate the moment, he's incredible. He's knocking it out of the park. I feel like where he's lacking, at the very least for me and what I'm personally used to, and I know that a lot of wrestling fans kind of have this thought as well, is that he can be a bit too mundane, a little bit too chill and too relaxed during the regular moments of a match and regular moves of a match that could benefit from having some hype added to it where he just doesn't inject that. So he's very selective with what moments he tries to elevate, which, you know, to some degree makes the moments that he elevates far more special. But there's just something missing still with me for when it comes to Joe Tessitore. Joe Tessitore. Best heel in the company, doing incredible work and would do numbers as some type of champion. Underrated, underloved, underappreciated. You could come up with all of the terminalities under the sun when it comes to how underappreciated in general Dominik Mysterio is. He does not get enough love and enough appreciation for how much he has elevated his character over the last 2 years, how good of a heel he is, how much of a natural heat magnet this guy is, and how entertaining he is in general as a character. He does not get enough appreciation in my eyes. Eventually people will see it, and eventually people will jump on the bandwagon that this man deserves titles left, right, and center. Blair is great, referring to Blair Davenport, but not really been used much since moving to the main roster. I hope that they start giving her more soon. Bro, it's been so crappy how they've used Blair Davenport since joining the main roster, and that they've barely used her like at all. And I feel bad because I was really trumpeteering and being the guy screaming from the top of the mountain that Blair Davenport might be the sneakiest, best call up that NXT has had, that she's going to have that Alexa Bliss rise where everybody was looking at the other women like Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky, and they weren't going to realize the rise that she was going to have like Alexa Bliss did amongst those other women. I felt like Blair Davenport was going to have that type of rise, and no, it's not even come close. She's not been given any opportunities in the ring, on the microphone, and when she does get given an opportunity in the ring, I gotta be honest, it's underwhelming. Like, it's been a significant downgrade in general since her time in NXT. Does this make her underrated? I don't know, because even when she's been on the main roster, I've been generally pretty underwhelmed. Gotta be Andrade. No one talks about him, but every match he's in gets multiple "this is awesome" chants. I think Andrade, more than anything, is just underappreciated. I think people know how good he is and people know what his limitations are, so no one really expects him to be this larger than life character that gets over with the crowd as a personality, but he gets over with the crowd with what he's good at, which is the craft of running the ropes and being a wrestler, because he is absolutely incredible. But I do think that he doesn't get enough love from traditional wrestling fans because he isn't this larger than life character. I feel like it's going to be one of those situations where you don't realize that we're in the good old days of having Andrade until we lose Andrade. I feel like that's the only time that people are going to show genuine appreciation for Andrade, kind of like what happened with Claudio, formerly Cesaro, in the WWE. No need to explain here, referring to Chelsea Green. Yeah, I feel like if I was doing this video last year, Chelsea Green is like the poster child for most underrated. I think everyone knows that she's amazing, and we're just sort of waiting patiently, sitting down, waiting for that awesome Chelsea Green push to happen, which absolutely needs to happen for the United States Championship. I don't think that she's underrated because the cat is out of the bag. People just know that Chelsea Green is unbelievably good now. Maybe the term should be under-rewarded because we haven't seen her get, you know, the rewards that we feel that she deserves. I think that Mia Yim is easily the most underrated superstar on the roster. Every program that she has had so far this year has been a knock out of the park, and in my opinion, she deserves to become the first women's US champion. I wouldn't argue if she became the first ever women's US champion. I feel like that would be a great pick because I also think that she embodies the definition of what underrated is, but funnily enough, I feel like people are seeing the light of Mia Yim because I've been waving that Mia Yim flag for close to a year now, and people called me crazy that she's not as good as I was saying, that I was overhyping Mia Yim, but I kept telling people that she was underrated and putting on sneaky good matches every single week, whether it was on SmackDown or NXT. But I feel that kind of similarly to Chelsea Green, cat's out of the bag. People finally know that Mia Yim, she's fucking her. She like that's the woman, man. Like she is a beast. So if she were to win the women's US championship, I'd be good with that too. Ludwig Kaiser, man, I've been impressed with this dude's wrestling for the past year, and it's always a 10 out of 10 banger of a match. Bro is probably the best heel in WWE, and his mic work is phenomenal as well. But alas, he tends to get overshadowed by Gunther. So you and I are on somewhat of a similar page, but we don't agree on everything here. I don't think that he's the best heel in the business like you're saying. I do agree that to a degree he's being overshadowed by Gunther. I agree that his mic work is phenomenal, but I think where I think that he's underrated is that I see main event potential in Ludwig Kaiser. Like I'm talking top heel in the company potential on Ludwig Kaiser, and people just tend to not see that. They see a lackey to Gunther, like you said, being overshadowed by Gunther's admittedly ginormous shadow. But when you extrapolate him away from Gunther on his own, I think he's got a ginormous ceiling, a ceiling that is somebody that could be in the main event scene as a top heel on both Raw and SmackDown. He just has this look and this mannerism that I just don't think that you can manufacture. He has that top tier Bond villain feel that once they really lay into his villainry, I think he can be one of the top heels in the WWE because he already has great mic skills and he's already great in the ring. He just sort of needs to be given the spotlight, and I think that he will rise to the top really quickly when given that opportunity. I'll die happy when I finally get Montez Ford's single run. I mean, Montez Ford has been talked about as maybe the most underrated, most underutilized WWE talent in the last several years. I think we already know this at this point. I don't think that he's underrated. I think he falls more underutilized because he's just sort of been cast typed as the tag team guy when a lot of us want to see him have a run as a single superstar. We'll see if that ever happens. But I mean, from what I can see, it looks like we're going to be sitting on our hands for a while still. I really thought that we were going to get it after Elimination Chamber 2023 when he had that singles run in the chamber for the US Championship and he impressed the living hell out of everybody, but it didn't materialize to anything. And I see nothing that tells us that it's going to materialize ever. Rage Holland, his run in NXT since the Chase U angle began has been fantastic in my opinion. Even before he was doing good. I know people have their grievances against him for his past, but we have to eventually get over that. He seriously stepped up in every facet. I agree that we need to get over it. If WWE got over it, we need to get over it as well. Accidents happen in this business, and it's not as if he did it on purpose. I'm sure he's learned from it. Clearly, WWE believes that he's learned from it and he's grown from it because they continue to give him spotlight and time on TV and in the ring. But people will always hold this against them. And when they hold this against them, kind of like Tonga Loa's botches, they won't and refuse to see the growth that has happened in that time since the injury to Big E. And what we've seen from Ridge Holland, it is a generational leap in terms of just overall quality, in terms of his character work, his mic work, his in-ring skills, just his overall presence and demeanor. He is a guy that, as you're watching NXT, you know he's going to be put into the main event scene of NXT sometime soon. And he's earned it, frankly. But if you're one of those folks that just sort of refuses to see beyond the Big E injury, you're doing yourself a disservice by not seeing the growth that we've seen from Ridge Holland. He is absolutely underrated. Gallus feels like they could be a really good dominant team if given the chance. Yep, these guys don't know how to have a bad match, and they don't get featured enough and don't get enough love. These guys are definitely underrated. We haven't seen or heard much from him on the mic, but still, I really believe that he has the in-ring skills and charisma to hold a mid-card title in the future. I disagree. We've seen him on the mic and we've heard him on the mic. It's not good. And it's the reason why we don't see or hear him on the mic anymore. So I wouldn't say that he's underrated because we know what he's good at. He's good in the ring and we know what he's bad at. He's bad on the mic. So to me, I feel like we've seen the entire resume of what Dragon Lee is capable of. I think he'll be that Andrade type where he has to pretty much exclusively win us over with in-ring storytelling because it's just not going to happen as a character. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. I think Nikkita Lyons is underrated and overhated. If fans can give her time to grow, I can see her as a top star. So I agree that she's overrated. I personally don't see her as a top star. I would love to be proven wrong, but I also disagree that she's underrated. I feel like the criticism that she gets from time to time when it comes to her in-ring work rate, I think is fair. But I will say the hate that she gets is ridiculously overboard. This tag team, we already saw Berto, A-class performance with LA Knight last week. I hope that they get a proper tag team run and hopefully will be a tag team champion or even singles champion soon. I don't see them being singles champion, but I could absolutely see them getting a proper tag team run and a proper tag team build, which I firmly believe that they deserve. Because I agree with you, they are underrated. Holy shit, these guys are so unbelievably good, and I just don't think that enough people know how good these guys actually are. And the only time that we really got to see them flourish was their short tag team run on NXT, which wasn't very long. In fact, it was short, and in that short amount of time, they impressed WWE that they called them up to the main roster. So we haven't really gotten to see them flourish anywhere yet. But in those little bits that they get given, they're unbelievably impressive. The amount of power and character development from Joe Gacy is crazy. I agree, especially right now, he's underrated, especially if you only know him for his work in the Wyatt Six. Like, he is so much more than that. He is an incredible character worker. He can be a fun guy to watch in the ring. His matches can be incredibly fun, but right now he's kind of just sort of stuck in a box as just one character of a bigger faction, but he has a massive arsenal when it comes to his character work and his mic skills. Like, this guy is special. I hope that maybe one day we get to see a bit more individualized personalities from the Wyatt Six, so that those that only know Joe Gacy as the member of the Wyatt Six can see what this dude is truly capable of. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm done. Get out of here.